Namandavutsu. 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 Good morning, everyone. Reverend Marvin, thank you for introducing me. It's a great honor for me to be invited here every year over the last 15 years. Yeah, a long time. We are younger, much younger before. And I come here always in March, and I call my trip the March Madness, or annual Southern Migration. And it's such a pleasure to be here, and I feel as if I were talking to my, the students in Berkeley. And every year we have summer retreat in July, and Sachi and Masako-san were the regular attendants until a few years ago. So I feel as if I were speaking in Berkeley. And I come from Berkeley, and as you know, Berkeley is a town of riots. And almost every day I hear this helicopter circling around. So from this sound I can tell that people are demonstrating in Berkeley. And yeah, it's an exciting place. And probably I told you this before. People say that even if communism goes out of Russia and Cuba, it will stay in Berkeley. Very exciting town. And a few minutes ago, Reverend Marvin showed me your temple. The construction. There's nothing in there. Incredible. But come to think of it, that's a manifestation of emptiness. That's the temple is for. The temple is teaching us nothingness, emptiness. Maybe it's better keep it as it is. Everybody has a clear message. Anyway, so it's so nice to be here. And I hope all of you have these lecture materials. And the topic we have today is Shakyamuni and Shinran, Buddhism as a teaching of self-examination. I thought it's good that we study the basics of Buddhism. Sometimes, I tend to deal with that kind of advanced teaching of the Shinran Shonin. So, some people are lost in the lecture. So this year I picked up this basic topic, and I discussed a similar topic before, in this temple some years back. But yeah, let's study this, very important basic topic this time. And we are the students of the tradition called Shin Buddhism. And in Shin Buddhism, we usually study the teachings of two teachers. These two teachers are Shakyamuni Buddha and Shinran Shonin. Shakyamuni Buddha is a founder of Buddhism, and Shinran Shonin is known as a founder of Shin Buddhism. So in our temples, we have special services celebrating the birth and the death of these two teachers. And I have often received the question, are Shakyamuni's teaching and Shinran's teaching the same or different? I received this question. So this time I want to answer this question in my lecture. Did you ever have this kind of question? Maybe some people are nodding. And in Dharma school, in children's services, Dharma school teachers often talk about Shakyamuni's teachings, and in adult services, the Shin ministers talk about Shinran's teachings, sometimes their teachings seem very different. For example, in the Dharma schools, teachers say that you must become good persons. And in the adult services, Shin ministers tell people, tell people that Shinran Shonin said, if the good person attains a birth in Pure Land, how much more so the evil person. So it sounds like a contradiction there, and the Dharma school teachers say, oh, self-improvement is so important, you must become good persons. But in adult services, teachers say, the evil person has more chance to be liberated than good person. So it's natural that people have the question, are Shinran Shonin's teachings and the Shakyamuni teachings the same or different? So this question is an important one because there seems to be considerable differences between Shakyamuni and Shinran. First, there are differences between these teachers concerning the time and place in which they lived. Concerning the time they lived in, Shakyamuni lived in the 5th century BC, but Shinran lived in the 13th century. There is about an 18th century difference between them. Concerning the places they lived in, Shakyamuni lived in India, but Shinran lived in Japan. Thousands of miles separate the places where they lived. More importantly, concerning the terms, the vocabulary Shakyamuni and Shinran used in their teachings, there are considerable differences. For example, Shakyamuni often used terms such as impermanence, selflessness, and conditional arising. But Shinran seldom used those terms in his teachings. And Shinran used the terms such as Amida Buddha, Pure Land, birth in Pure Land, and Nembutsu. But the historical Shakyamuni never used those terms, such as Amida and the Pure Land. This way, there are considerable differences between these two teachers. So, some Buddhist scholars in Japan and West consider that Shin Buddhism, the teaching of Shinran, is a historical deviation from the original teaching of Shakyamuni. So it's natural that the question, are their teachings same or different, arises. And it's a very important question. Then what is my answer to this question? My answer is, yes, their teachings are the same, in spite of the differences concerning the time, place, and the vocabularies they used. I believe that their teachings are basically the same. I see no difference at all between them as far as the essence of their teaching is concerned. So in order to explain my view that their teachings are the same this morning, I want to talk about some similarities between these teachers. I will talk about the most important similarity between them. And this similarity is the fact that they both considered self-examination the most important issue in their lives. Then after discussing the most important similarity, I will discuss an outline of Shakyamuni's life, and I will present an outline of his teaching by referring to the Dharma, 3 Dharma marks. So you can look at the top of page 2. I think these 3 concepts summarize the the entire life of Shakyamuni and same time summarize the whole essence of Shakyamuni's teaching. Then I will point out the 4 important points in Shakyamuni's life. First, the 4 points are, the first, Shakyamuni renounced the traditional religion of his time. Second, he had a very deep awakening experience. That's number 2. And the awakening, his awakening has 2 aspects. Two aspects. And third, number 3, after having experienced the awakening, Shakyamuni lived a very powerful and a dynamic life. And then fourth, he had the fulfillment of human life. And actually Shakyamuni talks about the importance of fulfill human life. In this life, not in the next life. Shakyamuni never talked about life after death. Okay. So that's the 4 important points in Shakyamuni's life and in Shakyamuni's teaching. And then I will discuss, Shinran. And I will discuss Shinran's 4 similarities with Shakyamuni. First, Shinran renounced the traditional religion of his time, or he renounced the traditional Buddhist practices. That's the first similarity. Then Shinran had the deep awakening experience, and his awakening also has the twofold aspect. Then third, I talk about Shinran's very dynamic and creative life he had after his awakening. Then finally, the 4th point is that Shinran had the fulfillment of human life. And he talked about the importance of having this completion of human life at the end of our life. Okay. Shinran never talked about life after death. Okay. So these are the 4 similarities I like to describe. By doing this, I want to say their teachings are same. Okay, same. The basic similarity between Shakyamuni and Shinran. Here I want to say that the most important and basic similarity between these 2 teachers is the fact that both of them devoted their entire lives to self-examination. Self-examination was all they did and all they taught. Buddhism is nothing but self-examination. Okay, please remember, Buddhism has all kinds of cultural things and all kinds of complicated doctrines. But see, what is Buddhism? Definition of Buddhism is nothing but knowing the self. Okay, self-examination. If you depart from it, see, you are not a Buddhist in the true sense of the word. Okay, in the 13th century, the Zen master Dogen defined Buddhism, and he said, studying the Buddha Dharma, studying Buddhism means studying the self. Okay, studying the self. Buddhism is nothing but self-examination. We cannot define it in any other way. And self-examination means asking one question: what am I? Okay, what am I? And we could say that all the teachings of Shakyamuni and Shinran were answers to the question, what am I? Well, we could say that they are all insights gained in the process of self-examination. Every time I come here, I draw the same picture. And some of you must have kind of memorized of these things. And okay, I drew this boat, this boat, and this boat is going upward. Okay, so this symbolizes the life of Shakyamuni. When Shakyamuni was young, this boat's going is easy. See, no frictions, no, so very smooth. But as he grew up, as Shakyamuni grew up, he started to have some objects of attachment, like fame, wealth, possession, things, gradually started to develop attachment. So this boat is getting loaded with more loads. Okay, so then Shakyamuni realized, this going is not easy. He realized that something is coming from opposite direction. This is the impermanence. So he realized that he loved these positive values, okay, and status and possession, and he wanted to maintain them. But he gradually realized that he cannot maintain them forever. And legend tells us that he went out the 4 gates. See, that the palace where he lived had 4 gates. And so when he went out the first 3 gates, he saw the old person. When he went out the second gate, he saw the sick person. And when he went out the 3rd gate, he saw a dead person. And he learned that he had to become old and dead, sick, and someday he must die. See, he learned that, and it was such a shocking thing for him, and he became very much depressed. See, he had to lose everything he had cherished someday, okay, and he had to lose his something he had in himself, like youth, health, and life. See? Even though things are going to be lost, so he couldn't stand it. See? So he became very despondent, and he wondered how people could live their lives having known the fact that everything they cherish are going to be lost. And he kind of couldn't have any desire to live. Then, fortunately, there are 4 gates, and so there was another gate. One day he went out of the 4th gate, and he saw a traveling monk. The monk's face was shining because of his wisdom. And actually, he met this monk, and actually this monk embodied the truth of impermanence. Being one with impermanence, this monk didn't have any friction with impermanence. So, but having seen this monk, and this aspiration for becoming a Buddha arose in Shakyamuni's mind. See? I wish I want to be a person like him. See? So this aspiration for Buddhahood was awakened. By the way, Buddha met a Buddha. Okay, Shakyamuni wasn't the first Buddha. Okay, there are many Buddhas before Shakyamuni, and Shakyamuni says that too. There are many Buddhas before me, and he met a Buddha. Okay, and his aspiration for Buddhahood was awakened. And then he left the palace when he was 29, and he started to seek the way. Then he studied and practiced the traditional religion. The religion he studied was Brahmanism. Okay? Brahmanism is the old name for Hinduism. Okay? So the Hinduism and the Brahmanism are same thing. That was the main religion of his time. And Shakyamuni believed that the teachings and practices of Brahmanism could save him. So he seriously, studied Brahmanism. And actually, he wanted to believe that something permanent exists. See, if he discovered something permanent, he could overcome the reality of impermanence. See? So Hinduism or Brahmanism talks about Brahmanism, eternal God, see? Eternal universal God. And it also talks about Atman. See? Atman is a soul or spirit, some kind of divinity, see? Eternal substance that exists in each individual. So he wanted to discover these two things, Brahma, universal God, and Atman, see, this individual divinity. And yoga is a way of meditation, you know that. Yoga is a way of uniting these two divinities, universal divinity and individual divinity. See, yoga and the English word unite come from the same word origin. See, yoga and unite. See, so the yoga means uniting. See, through meditation, you discover this eternal substance in yourself, and you become one with this eternal substance, universal substance. See, that's like yogic meditation. But he seriously sought, this union. See, that was the content of his practices, and he was desperately searching for the Atman, eternal substance, soul. See? He thought that way he could overcome this. Then he didn't have to fear, see, impermanence. But having studied and practiced the traditional religion for 6 years, he started to have a serious doubt about Brahmanism, and he decided to renounce it. Then he received a pot of milk from a maiden to recover his strength. You know this, you must have seen the picture with Shakyamuni with skin and bones, totally emaciated because of these intense practices. But he thought it useless to continue the practice, so he gave it the practice up, and he sat under a tree, and he started to meditate. We may call Shakyamuni sitting under a tree a kind of practice, but in India it was not considered a practice. It was a lazy way. Okay? In India is a hot and humid place. Okay? Sitting under the cool and the comfortable place under the tree, that wasn't considered practice. And actually many practitioners laughed at Shakyamuni. See, Shakyamuni has taken to the easier way. He has become a dropout. And people laughed at him. But Shakyamuni thought practices are useless. Now he thought he had really examined the self. See? So he started to have the meditation under the tree. So what does it mean to meditate in Buddhism? There are many forms of meditation in this world: yogic meditation, transcendental meditation. How is Buddhist meditation different from other forms of meditation? I think it's an important question. Okay? We have Zen meditation. Zen meditation is a Buddhist meditation. As I said earlier, see, Buddhist meditation is a way of asking the question, what am I? Okay? So you have to ask this one question while you meditate. Okay? What am I? See? Self-examination. That's what Buddhism is all about, what Buddhist meditation is all about. See, other forms of meditations are designed for enjoying the trance or peace of mind. But Buddhist meditation isn't designed for those things. It's a serious questioning process. So if you visit Zen centers, first thing they will tell you is sit and think, meditate on yourself. Okay? That's what they will tell you. Okay? Then what does self-meditation, meditation of self means? See, body, our self consists of body and mind. See, so the Shakyamuni, in his meditation, Shakyamuni intensely examined the self, his body and mind. So he had the question, do I have something permanent in myself, in my body, and in my mind? That was the question he had. And he examined his body and all the things that formed the body, things such as skin, muscles, bones, and blood. All those things were constantly moving, changing, and flowing. Shakyamuni realized there was nothing permanent in his body. Then he examined his mind. Then he realized that all the things that formed his mind, things such as sensation, conception, impulse, and consciousness, were moving and changing and flowing. Nothing staying same. Finally, he realized all the things in his existence, in his body and mind, were impermanent. This way, he could not find anything permanent in both the body and mind. Then one morning, Shakyamuni was sitting under a tree. He was 35, and it was a very quiet moment of his life. It was the kind of stillest moment in the world history, I think. When he looked at the morning star, he attained the great awakening, and he became the Buddha. The Buddha means the awakened one. When he clearly understood the Dharma, Dharma means the truth of impermanence. See? Dharma means truth of impermanence. When he clearly understood the Dharma, he became a Buddha. He became a Buddha, and he realized that there was nothing permanent outside himself or inside himself. And he understood that it was a mistake to think there was something fixed or permanent. So we can say his insight into the Dharma, truth of impermanence, was the contents of his awakening. So Shakyamuni described the content of his awakening with two sentences. He said, "My life is already spent. My life is already spent. Universal working is already established. Universal working is already established." Very short two sentences. My life is already spent, finished. The universal working is already established, realized. After his enlightenment, he lived a very powerful and creative life. And from his age, 35 to 80, for 45 years, he traveled all over India and shared his insight with the people. And that's the kind of outline of his life and his experience. Now I have talked about Shakyamuni's life, and here let me discuss an outline of his life and his teaching. Although there are now many Buddhist schools and traditions, we have dozens of Buddhist schools and traditions in the world. Although there are many traditions, in Buddhist traditions, the teaching of Shakyamuni was originally very simple, very simple. It was a teaching that talked about three basic concepts. When non-Buddhists asked Shakyamuni and his disciples a question, what is Buddhism? Shakyamuni and his disciples always answered the question with the three concepts. They are spelled out here. Okay? The dukkha, usually translated as suffering. Okay? I like the translation difficulty better. But anyway, dukkha, difficulty or suffering. That's the first one. Anicca, the impermanence. And anatman, see, selflessness. Sometimes another word, nirvana, is added. And it's sometimes called four dharma marks, nirvana. But I abbreviated it because nirvana and anatman are very much similar ideas. And so I believe that these three concepts summarize the entirety of Shakyamuni's teaching. These are called the marks, three dharma marks. Marks mean that these are the characteristics, see, three characteristics. So these three concepts differentiate Buddhism from other teachings. See, the Buddhism is unique in talking about these three concepts. Initially he was having these frictions. See, friction. This is called the dukkha. See, this is the difficulties or suffering. See, Shakyamuni wanted to go this way. He wanted to maintain these positive values that he cherished. But something didn't allow him to cherish. So naturally, two forces are going from the opposite direction. See, so the frictions. Actually, dukkha, Sanskrit word means frictions. See, frictions. There's frictions here. See, so this is the first concept. And so he left the palace when he was 29, and he attained enlightenment. See, so this is the impermanence. So then, when he was 35, this was kind of being turned, overwhelmed by the truth, and this was totally turned around like this. So age 35 was crucial. He attained enlightenment. He gained insight into the absoluteness of this truth. See, his direction was totally turned around. So from his age 1 to 35, this one word, see, this one word characterizes the nature of life Shakyamuni had. See, this is the life of difficulty, suffering. See, because he wanted to maintain his values forever, but this didn't allow. See, they deprived everything he cherished.